Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about the fearful, avoidant, or disorganized attachment style with the anxious, preoccupied attachment style in the dating stage of a relationship. So if you haven't been following, I put an earlier video out for this series that was all about sort of some of the general themes in the dating stage. But now I want to talk a little bit about some of the main themes of what the fearful avoidant experiences in the anxious preoccupied FA relationship and some of the things that they need in order to create some resolution. Now, keep in mind, if you want to do a deeper dive into like a full length roadmap of the fearful avoidant AP relationship, you can check out the link in the description box below. For 7 days, we have a webinar for free that you can check out by entering into the link, going to webinars, typing in fearful avoidant and anxious preoccupied relationship, and you will see about an hour and 45-minute long webinar come up that has all the details of this dynamic in a lot of depth. We also have each of the attachment style courses in the 6 stages that go through all the different dynamics and how to actually do the work and reprogram. You can check that out as well when you use the link that gives you 7 free days of access to the Personal Development School. So the fearful side of the relationship in general. Okay, here are some things that you should know. Number one, the fearful avoidant goes in feeling really present, really seen, really connected, and eventually starts to become more avoidant. They will have suspicions from their anxious preoccupied partner, and usually from their side. And keep in mind, we'll do an anxious preoccupied side right after this for the next part of the series. But they tend to have suspicion that somebody's trying so hard. They have a hard time like sort of fathoming that somebody could like them this much, be this interested in them, because fearful avoidants tend to operate from this place of having this deep unworthiness core wound. So at first they tend to really like it, and then they become suspicious just of how much attention they're getting. And often they'll sort of start pushing away because they're not trusting the attention itself and the connection itself that's there. They will start testing a lot as early as the dating stage or honeymoon stage. And this testing is there to try to see if they can trust this person. Now, the test can come in all sorts of different forms. The tests may be through things where they try to make their anxious, preoccupied partner jealous, where they try to see if the person's lying, where they ask specific details of different things. And again, it's not because the fearful avoidant is trying to like cause all this trouble in the relationship. It's because they are wounded from past experiences and trauma where they feel afraid to really open and be vulnerable and trust and love. And so you'll see some of those different dynamics coming up quite a bit. Another thing that you'll see is the fearful avoidant will tend to like ask more questions, try to get the other person to open up more, and sometimes hesitate to share about themselves, though there will absolutely be like segments of time where the FA really opens up. And the FA will start to be hot and cold as early as the dating stage of a relationship as well, where they'll be really warm, come towards the anxious preoccupied, show up a lot, and then push away. Now, some of the push away is based on suspicion. Some of it will be based on different wounds that are triggered, but also some of the pushing away will be because they're afraid of their own feelings and they're afraid to feel vulnerable. There's a very strong correlation in this relationship where the fearful avoidant, the more vulnerable they feel, the more they start to wall up and kind of self-protect and create that distance between themselves and their partner. Now, that can be one big reason that you see the FA pushing away. Another big reason can be because they feel repelled by the anxiousness of the anxious preoccupied themselves. Fearful avoidants tend to experience a lot of enmeshment trauma in their childhood and a lot of codependency. And while there are some positive emotional associations to the extreme closeness that comes with codependency, fearful avoidants also don't like to give up their autonomy and sense of self and freedom. And they tend to get triggered by that. And they especially tend to get triggered if they feel like their boundaries are being infringed upon, like they're not getting space and time for themselves. And so they may go into, fearing this codependent or enmeshed dynamic. And sometimes we'll see things like flaw finding as a strategy for self-protection, where the fearful avoidant starts nitpicking the anxious preoccupied's behaviors in a relationship and how they show up. And it's usually them essentially on some level, almost trying to just convince themselves that they don't need this person, that this person isn't that great of a fit for them anyways. And, and it's them trying to stop themselves from feeling too vulnerable and feeling powerless to their own vulnerability in a relationship dynamic. And what we'll see sometimes too is the fearful avoidant may take their partner for granted because they're occupied by their own fears and suspicions and then come to regret it later. when they're out of that sort of suspicious mindset and feel guilt or shame or feel apologetic or sorry or regretful. And we may also see in this dynamic that the fearful avoidant tends to like threaten to break up or say that they're not interested in the relationship or do these sort of extreme measures to try to create more distance, seemingly all of a sudden. At worst, the fearful avoidant feels trapped and helpless and powerless in this relationship dynamic. At best, the fearful avoidant feels very seen, connected, wanted, valued. Like there's a depth of emotional connection, that there's very similar love languages that both attachment styles speak in the relationship. But that extreme of both ends can create some of that volatility that you'll see where they're picking a fight or causing a problem or, pushing away. And that hot and cold dynamic is really, really challenging for the anxious preoccupied individual, of course. So stay tuned for the next video where we talk a lot about the anxious preoccupied's experience. But before we leave here, I want to give you just a couple quick tools if you are the fearful avoidant. And sort of like what the fearful avoidant needs, I guess, in general. The fearful avoidant needs to explain to the anxious preoccupied that they need their own independence and autonomy, not because of something lacking in the relationship, but because of their own fears of codependency and engulfment, and because of their history and past experiences. They also want to explain that they are going to be emotionally available and present when they spend time together, but in their free time, they may need space away from their phone or talking so often. There tends to be a huge imbalance between how often an anxious preoccupied wants to stay connected outside of being actually physically together versus how much an AP wants to stay connected. The AP tends to want to be in contact a lot more often. The fearful avoidant needs to get the anxious preoccupied to sort of allow them to have space to just explore, just to sort of do their own thing from time to time. And they really need to feel that absence of pressure and expectation coming from the AP. And for the AP to have like a strong ability to meet their own needs and have some of that independence and that practice. And they also want to feel like they don't give up all other areas of life, like their career, their relationship to how they spend their money or budget their money, their family, their friendships, all these different things. They want to feel like they still have access to those things on their own, in their own way, to sort of be themselves. And they usually want time to self-soothe, self-reflect, introspect, and that tends to be quite important to them. And then fearful avoidance as well tend to value and appreciate a bit of challenge in all areas of life. It's a big fearful avoidant thing. So sometimes when that's completely missing, that can be a little bit disheartening and can sort of like repel the fearful avoidant back a little bit. And so some of these things are really important to the fearful avoidant. And when these things are not discussed, they usually come out in like quote unquote ugly ways instead, where we'll see, the fearful avoidants not setting boundaries, not communicating their needs, not showing up, and then just, pushing away really hard when these things sort of come to this tipping point in the relationship where these needs have been unmet for long enough and the fearful avoidants hungering for them. So anyways, I know this is like a good bit of information for today. Again, if you want to do a deeper dive, check out our like full length hour and 45-minute fearful avoidant anxious preoccupied webinar where we talk all about these different things, how to communicate these things, how to actually use these tools, what to reprogram in terms of fears, and how to, isolate needs and share them with each other. There's lots of info in there, so you can check it out, but hopefully this is a great start. And again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this community. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video where we'll talk specifically about the anxious preoccupied side of this relationship.